Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our very first Making It Work webinar. Making It Work webinar. And my sound is coming back to me, so bear with me for a second. Thank you all for being here, and I'd like to thank our sponsors who made it possible to bring Make It Work to you today. They are Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, MEMIC, Cross Insurance, and Katahdin Trust. And I'd first like to introduce our friend Bill Whitmore from Harvard Pilgrim to say a few words. Bill.
Great, thanks, Kate. Yeah, I'm Bill Whitmore. I'm the market lead and vice president for Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare here in Maine. We like to partner with the Press Herald on these events. They're always informative, timely, and particularly well attended. Personally, the panelists today, I can say that I've picked up coffee grounds and brewed coffee outside the door at Diamond Street, Coffee by Design. I've had haddock and scallops handed to me through my window at Harbor Fish in the parking lot. And while I haven't eaten at Chaval yet, recently I had the opportunity to help connect our foundation with a new organization that Chaval is a strong effort partner behind. It's called Cooking for Community. Just a little pitch for that. Our foundation has donated very generously to Cooking for Community, which is going to help serve a lot of meals to Mainers over the next few weeks, and brings the total of our foundation's contributions since the beginning of this pandemic to over $800,000 to Maine's nonprofits in Maine. So we're glad to be here. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you so much for the support of Harvard Pilgrim's Foundation at this time. I'm actually thrilled to say that over 200 people signed up to join us today. So if you have a moment, make sure that your chat is set to share your comments with everyone. That's in the lower right-hand corner, and we'd love for you to say hello. With that, I'd like to introduce Tony Payne of MEMIC. Tony.
Thank you, Kate. Glad to be here. And welcome to all the participants. As I said just before we started the webinar, from the School of Shameless Self-Promotion, I suggest that you get your website up on the chat box, particularly if you're serving food curbside or however you're making your ends meet and trying to move forward in this very strange time. I'm from MEMIC. I'm the Senior Vice President of External Affairs. We are the state's largest workers' compensation company, but we often call ourselves, what we like to say is we're a safety company that happens to sell insurance. And as the state's largest workers' comp insurer, we have about 18,000 policyholders from Fort Kent to Kittery and Gilead over to Lubec. And that kind of makes us the largest, what we consider membership organization in the state for employers. And so we take that obligation very seriously, particularly when it comes to the health and safety of all of your employees. They're the purpose of our work. Make sure that they come to work healthy and they leave healthy. So to that end, one of the things that we're doing during this pandemic is we're working very hard to make sure that there are safe practices in place, and particularly as the economy reopens. So I will post it to the chat, but go to our website at memic.com or our Facebook page, and we've just posted a resource for the Safe Return to Work Planning Guide, which will help you make sure that when your people return, we're not accelerating the infection, and in fact, hopefully we'll continue to get people back to work and get the economy going again. So thank you again for having us sponsor, and I'm really looking forward to the remarks of these three intrepid small business owners.
Excellent, thank you, Tony. And I'd like to welcome folks who said hello: Rose Foods, Eden Ciders, Steve DeMillo from DeMillo's. It's so great to see you all here. And now with that, I'd like to hand things off to our business projects editor at the Portland Press Herald, Carol Coltis. Take it away, Carol.
Thank you, Kate. Welcome everyone to our inaugural Making It Work webinar. I'm sure many of you are familiar with our business breakfast forums, which unfortunately are on hiatus right now as we all figure out a way to navigate this pandemic. But we wanted to figure out a way to continue to bring people with expertise and insight from the business community to bring that information and knowledge to other members of Maine's business community. And so we landed on this, on the Making It Work webinar. This is, as Kate mentioned, our first, so if it's a little bumpy, we apologize, but we promise we'll get better. And we also were thinking, well, what topic should we kick this series off with? And I think that the members of Maine's food service industry have already demonstrated tremendous grit and innovation. And we're lucky to have 3 people with us today who have taken that to a new level. We're focusing on curbside service because all 3 of them are offering that now, and it's a new service. And they're here to talk about how they came to that decision and what the impact has been. So let me, without any further ado, introduce them. Our format is we'll have a conversation for about half an hour or so, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. So let me first begin by welcoming Mary Allen Lindemann. So Mary Allen and Alan Spear opened the first Coffee by Design in 1994 on Congress Street in the middle of what was the porn district. Some things have changed considerably since then. There are now 5 locations for Coffee by Design, and once the pandemic set and the shelter at home orders came down, they were forced to close 4 of the locations, but are maintaining the Diamond Street location for curbside service, and that's also where their roastery is. They also had to furlough about 3/4 of their employees. And also we're welcoming Mike Alfiero. So Mike is the 3rd generation of the Alfiero family at Harbor Fish down off of Commercial Street. His ancestors opened it up in 1966, and the business has grown to the point where they do about 50% of their work retail and 50% of their business wholesale. And he's had some really significant success with his curbside service in terms of maintaining the retail operation. So Mike will talk a little bit about that. And then our final panelist is Ilma Lopez, who with her husband, Damian Sansetti, opened Piccolo, an acclaimed restaurant here in Portland in 2013, and then 4 years later opened Chaval. And they actually have had to lay off every one of their employees, and now the service that they are delivering is provided by family members only. So everyone has a different story to tell, and I thought, Mary Allen, maybe you could get us rolling and talk about, can you walk us through the mechanics of how you came to the decision to offer curbside service, and what were the public health implications for you from your employee and your customer point of view?
I think, first of all, I want to thank you for having this panel today, because I'm going to learn as much as hopefully I'll be able to share. So thank you. You know, I was looking at the chronology of how fast this all has happened. And when I look at March 6th, which is when we actually made the decision to do away with glassware, and people were angry at us. And the next thing we know, March 16th, 2 of the locations where we have coffee houses, one inside of IDEX and one inside of LL Bean, announced that we had 4 hours to close up, and we were uncertain as to when we would reopen. That same day, we realized we had to close 2 other locations, one because we felt we could not safely serve customers because of how small one of our spaces was, and the other location had a customer who was one of the first people to test positive for the virus, and our staff felt they should quarantine. So within a 4-hour period, we suddenly had to shut down 4 locations. We then had to make a decision with the one location we were going to keep open, which was Diamond Street, is how were we going to do service out of that location. And so we, within a 24-hour period, removed chairs, tables. We initially were going to allow customers to come in, but we were very restrictive as far as the 6-foot distance, that people could only order through the phone. We put a lot of things in place very quickly. Soon after that, we said curbside only, because safety did become an issue. And it was so hard for us to get information. There was conflicting information about how could we safely serve people. And we did have staff. They were given the choice whether they wanted to continue to work or not. We have both the roastery and the retail component too. So it really got down to 2 people who were willing to stay in retail, and then our general manager, and then my business partner and myself, making sure that retail could be operational. And so we had to, thankfully with Square, they gave us an option of how we could actually do all of our orders online. We set up a program of a limited menu. We decided that we actually were not going to go out to customers' cars because people were so anxious to talk about what was going on with the virus, which not only was it time and interaction with customers, but emotionally very draining for staff because everybody wanted to talk. And the emotional piece of this, we cannot in any way minimize. So we very soon decided we were going to actually have it be online ordering, and that we would place people's orders at the door. They would call ahead and let us know that they were there, and we would place the order outside. You know, where we are thankful is we are viewed as an essential business. So we are lucky in that way. But when I look at our numbers and realize that we are able to, at retail, bring in now through curbside, which I'm lucky, it's 20% of the business we were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell people you're pivoting every day. What we add to the menu, how do we convey better to customers how to order? How do we make sure the biggest challenge for us has been customers who are not comfortable ordering online, an older customer who may not feel comfortable, and how do we explain or tell them they can't order? So we've had to set up a separate phone line for phone orders. Our new Mainer community, we have a very welcoming environment and have any number of languages being spoken at any given time. Our menu is not translated in other languages yet. And so where our rule is you can't open the door for staff to really engage with a customer, we now have customers who are long-term who cannot order in English, but we don't have a menu that serves them properly. So that'll probably be the next phase for us, is how do we actually add translation onto our menu. Curbside is going to continue even when we open our doors again. I tell people it's our new drive-through. Curbside is not going to end anytime soon.
Great, thank you. And Mike, tell us your story.
Well, I think back sometime around March 15th, 16th, we started to realize that our business was increasing so much because of the panic. People were going into supermarkets and other markets and buying like crazy. So we saw this huge surge. And at the same time, I was talking to some other business people about, I was talking to John at Rosemont Markets, for instance, and we had been in contact pretty much daily as to how to manage the sudden increase. I think it was somewhere around a Friday or Saturday of that week. The store was we were getting a lot of people coming to the store, even though inside the store, we were not allowing anybody to self-serve. Basically, people were coming in, we were separating them, and then we were serving them. They weren't allowed to help themselves. But it just got to be too much. So we decided during the day on a busy Saturday to shut it down and go curbside. And for the next few days, we were kind of in a panic mode because we had all this inventory. And, obviously in the seafood business, you got to turn it over pretty quick. So we started freezing retail portions. We started just moving product. We, gave some to some of the Wayside Kitchen and Good Shepherd Food Bank. And then about 4 or 5 days later, the phone started ringing. We set up instructions on how to do curbside, and it started taking off pretty significantly. And then about a week and a half after that, we started home delivery. And the fortunate part for us is we already had the infrastructure already in place for both home delivery and for being able to service our customers with filling orders, so on and so forth. Further into it, there was a report coming out of the CDC that, they started talking about how you could catch the virus within 1 to 2 feet. So at that point, I immediately came into work the next day and I was able to secure some masks for our employees, and it became a company policy that anybody that is working here has to wear a mask, and that's been on now for almost 4 weeks. no public access to the building. Everything is curbside. All the freight that comes in, no one's allowed to enter the building. So it was quite a transformation, and we are still adjusting to it. We've lost 80% of our wholesale business. We are still doing a little bit through some restaurants that are doing curbside, and some of our retail markets that are selling seafood. So we have a little bit of wholesale left, but primarily it's all retail. And right now our numbers are mirroring what we were doing a year ago when we were open. So
On the retail side.
the retail side, yeah. So there's been an increase in sales. We're trying to figure out physically how to handle it. So that's why we're going to be implementing our e-commerce side of being able to purchase online.
Great, thank you. Ilma, how about you? How did you come to the decision to offer curbside service?
The same as Mary Ellen, like, thank you so much for having us here and for having me. Honestly, it came down to, we talked to our team on Friday. We held a meeting with a bunch of the business owners on Friday morning. We talked to them, you know, and like the Friday before these blow up, that's when we're like, you know what, like, we're going to start like taking tables away. So we took tables away, we took chairs away from the patio, from our bar as well, both restaurants. And you have Piccolo is 20 seats. So when you take tables away, you ended up having just like 8 people sitting inside. And that was Friday. Then Saturday comes along and you're like, okay, this is still not safe. And then Sunday night, they finally were just like, you know what, like, we just can't do this. We cannot do this because them and I feel like if I'm not willing to take my daughter out, if I'm not willing to take her, we have a 6-year-old. So if I'm not willing to take her or put my mom into public spaces, it's not right that I do it to my team. It's not right that I do it to our guests, like people that have been supporting us since day one. So that, it was really hard because that Monday morning, we, you know, everyone showed up to work like a regular Monday morning, and we just sat everyone down and we told them. And we told them, I remember like Damien and I was like, no, it's going to be great. And I know we're not closing the restaurant for good, but it feels like you are. It feels like you have been, and I get it, like Mike and Mary Ellen have run the store before, but we have been working in this industry. And I think like you and I talked before, like I've been a cook for 17 years. We put everything that we ever save in both restaurants, and having both restaurants closed down the same day and not having not having like a way to go, not having where to go. And that's one of the things that it's really hard. It's really hard to look at these people in the eyes, like people that you constantly tell them, you know, like we always laugh about like making sure that your team drinks the Kool-Aid. So you constantly tell them like, oh, and this is what we do, and we're a family, and let's do this together. So you're constantly like that cheerleader, and then they look at you being like, oh my God, how are you doing this to me? Mm-hmm. And you're like, and honestly, like I try to explain this to a bunch of people. It's like, I'm not doing it to you. And this is not being done to me. This is being done to all of us. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, like I feel like even though our both businesses are closed and we're doing curbside, but even though we're going through this, we're so lucky that we're healthy. Mm-hmm. Like I can't imagine what other families are going through. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the way that I see it, like I think I have a different perspective because I'm South American. Mm-hmm. So I'm not able to go to my country. So I haven't been able to go back home and see my father and see like the rest of my family for over 9 years. Like my daughter doesn't even know my family. Mm-hmm. So because I have that background, I know how it feels not being able to see your family. And I know that it's terrible. So if closing my 2 business will help other families to, in the long run, have their business open in the long run to be able to hold their significant others, it's worth it. So we came out to the curbside option because, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. I was just going to ask you, you have limited your menu and only will do the curbside service for 2 days, right, Ilma?
Yes, so now this is our first week that we are at Thursday.
3 days.
So now we're doing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You know, like it's like all of us, like every day is a brand new plan. I feel like we have come with like 10 different business plans within the past like 2 weeks. No, it's just like trying to figure out because you have like, okay, money-wise, like our curbside, like we're super grateful and thanks to everyone that has ordered. We're able to afford health insurance fully paid for our team. So it has been great, but that's the only thing that we are able to afford so far. I haven't been able to pay my electricity don't even talk out of my loan and my different stuff that I owe to the bank for the businesses. But like on the bigger scheme of things, yeah, like we have been doing, it's like 20% of what we were doing before from Chaval, because it's the one that's open for curbside. Piccolo is going to open next week. But from Piccolo, we have done zero.
Right.
Because it's, it's a small space. So like, that's the other thing, like it's a small space. You can't have too many people in the kitchen. You can bring anyone in. So trying to navigate those things, it has been complicated to say the least, but the community has shown fantastic support. So, I take it with a grain of salt.
So let me ask this, the next question. All of you source your food products from a variety of places. Like, you do a lot with local farmers, and Mary Ellen, you have sources that are international for your coffee beans. And Mike, you work with regional and local fishermen. So how are you managing your supply chain and your vendors while you're dealing with this, while you're navigating the pandemic? Mike, why don't you start first this time?
Well, right now we're not having a problem getting mostly local product because there are harvesters going out, boats are fishing. The market is a little depressed, in certain areas. Prices are not indicative of what they would be getting, during normal market, during normal times. The biggest problem has been, there's been periods of air freight when air freight is getting held up because of the airlines, because we're bringing products in from, Iceland and parts of Europe and, stuff from the West Coast. So sometimes there's a delay. But right now, we're not having too many problems. And I think it's part of the seafood industry right now. We're fortunate that, people are able to get out and fish, and they're not, like as compared to meat processing facilities that are working in closed doors, fishermen are able to get out and, so right now we're okay and fortunate for it.
Good. And how about you, Mary Ellen? How are you dealing with your supply chain?
It's challenging because, several things. First of all, we're realizing we can't do this alone. And so collaborating with local vendors, we've had people whose product we've not carried before, but someone else we were working with has decided to close their business temporarily. So we've been actually able to bring in other local people's product and really highlight what they're doing. And together we're working together to raise awareness that we're all open. I've never seen such an amazing collaborative effort. And I think other people on this panel can attest to that. It's been so powerful when I hear that someone's doing not just curbside, but offering a grocery store in addition to their services. And our coffee, they can't serve in their restaurant anymore, but we can repackage it and they can sell it in their grocery now. So I think on a local level, really communicating with the vendors we work with here. On a global level, it's very challenging and probably some of the most emotional conversations to have when we have a wholesale business is the largest part of our company. And when, yes, we're so fortunate, we have a number of grocery stores and specialty markets that have remained open and are busy. Our mail order is skyrocketing, which we are very thankful for, but it doesn't replace 60% of 70% of a wholesale business. So I can't bring in as much coffee as we had projected. And if I could just briefly share a very powerful story, and it just shows this is a global issue that's going on and how moving it is when you have long-term partners. We have a farmer we work with in Guatemala, and we've been buying her very high-end micro lots, and she somehow assumed we would buy all of it this year, which we've never purchased all of it. We were going to buy half of it, but she had set aside the entire lot in the warehouse in Guatemala for us to bring in. And we reached out to her and explained that we would honor the half that we had planned, even though we can't even sell that much, but we'll honor that. She sent an email that I actually had to make sure I was understanding what she was saying. She has offered that if we will bring in the entire 3 micro lots, she will not charge us for the half that we are not taking.
Wow.
Provided we will roast and give that coffee to frontline workers here in Maine.
Wow, that's remarkable.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm getting red from it. It is so emotional that here we have someone who we've always been there to help them, You know, she has an amazing school on her farm. We've donated for years. We've had this amazing partnership. And here she is saying, we want to help you. We will give it, and you give it to your frontline workers in America.
Wow.
That's what this is about. And these stories, and I'm sure everyone on this panel could share these stories. We can't do it alone. We're going to rebuild together. We will look differently, but core to who we are, we cannot lose who we are as people. And people are moving forward and offering things that are absolutely amazing that we never would have known that they were willing to do if this hadn't happened.
And Mary Ellen, just for a little context, so what is a micro lot transfer to or translate to in terms of pounds of coffee?
It's she's donating, let's see, 100 pounds, 2,000 pounds of green. It's a lot of money. It's a lot.
That's amazing. Wow, that's terrific.
And so, you know, and again, we're paying shipping costs, and we have an importer who agreed to bring it in and warehouse it until we need it. But we're talking about a significant amount of money for a farmer.
Wow, that's great.
Thousands of dollars.
And Ilma, tell us about your suppliers. I know you work with a lot of Maine farmers, right?
Yeah. So far it has been, it's pretty much what Mike was saying before. Like, it's hard because we do work with them and we get a lot of supply for them. But still, they're seeing a shortage because a lot of people are just buying on a panic mode. And if you think about it, like our farmers right now, like the majority of the farmers, they're not harvesting anything yet. We just came out of winter. They're planting, they're like getting their soil ready. And I feel like, I don't know, like Damien and I had these conversations before, is we need our farmers to keep working the same way that we're doing. Like, we work with certain farmers that the same thing as Marielle, and like we commit to buy their whole crop. And that's whether we're able to sell it during the summer or not, we committed to it. So I guess, like, to our farmers, like, I'm just asking, like, just keep working normal, because we're in this together. And I know that I'm just one restaurant or two restaurants, but I know more restaurants feel the same way that as I do. Like, we committed with you, we're going to be there for you. Like, don't plan less, don't plan more, just keep doing the same thing that you're doing. The biggest thing that we need right now is like open communication. Let me know when you're planting your crops, let me know when they're going to be ready. Let me know if you need help to harvest them, because that's everything that nobody has talked. It's like all these farmers, like we have farmers that already pay for the visas for these people to come in June. And now with everything that's going on, everything is on hold. These farmers already put money in to bring their help, and nothing is happening. Nothing's going to happen. And I can't be upset about it because it's the right thing to do. You don't want more people coming to the States if we're not able to test our people. We shouldn't bring more people. We can't put our people and more people at risk. It's just not responsible as a community in total. But like, that's one thing that we're asking our farmers, like, keep doing the same thing you're doing. Just keep an open communication. Let us know if you need help harvesting. We're going to be there for you. If you just need help for us, like paying right now a little bit and then just like paying the rest later, like anything that you need, just let us know. And in their hand, like, we're asking our consumers or in our guests, like, don't get into a panic. We're going to be there for you. Mike is going to bring fish. Marielle is going to keep like selling the coffee. Like, we're going to be there for you. It's no need to buy so much right now. We will be there for you. Okay. And I think both of you guys agreed, right?
Yeah.
So since you raised that issue, Ilma, of workforce, I know that, you know, in my conversations with you before this event, you were all saying that everything changes on a daily basis. And then just yesterday, Governor Mills releases the timeline for reopening the state. And so, you know, assuming certain benchmarks are reached, restaurants can reopen in June, maybe. And so I'm just wondering, how are you dealing with the employee side of this whole situation? I know that there are a lot of complicating factors in terms of whether you're able to get the PPP money and how unemployment is affecting people's lives. And so I just wonder, how are you managing that? Ilma, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's so with anyways, all of us are really aware of like the holes that the PPP has and everything that's going on with that you think you're going to get forgiven, but you really don't know. So you pray to it. It's this like black hole right there. But like as a business point of view, and this is a decision, we just made this decision yesterday, by the way. As I said before, like, we're making decisions every day. So yesterday we came to the agreement that we call our team, and we're just like in touch of who, I guess, like who is willing to come back. That's the biggest question. Who is, and not willing in a bad sense that they don't want to work. It's like willing in the sense like, are you aware what this implies? Like, are you aware that, you have to leave your unemployment, you have to leave the benefits you have right now to be a part of the bigger group, to be a part of the bigger change. And one thing that we're talking is like, the first people that you bring into your business, they're going to be it's going to be hardest, because the first people you're bringing in is the people that have to do the deep clean, that has to set up the restaurant, that has to set up all their business to be able to bring everyone else. Like that first group of people have, to me, the advantage of building a new business with you, because you're reopening your business. I'm really opening 2 restaurants at the same time that any other 400 businesses are opening at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's like the first group is going to work super, super hard, but it's going to be extremely rewarded when you're able to have the rest of the family join you. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Second of all, like we're just bringing 2 people. So it's, being pretty cautious. Like we're bringing 2 people in, we'll wait the 15 days, see how everything works, see how, hey, is the business like able to pay these 2 people? Like I'm not basing anything on PPP. I'm just basing like what we're able to afford as a business. I need to be really conscious, because financially all of us are in a struggle. So we need to make sure that we're conscious of what we're doing. And then like if 15 days, like everything goes well, we're all fine, we can bring someone else in. But like little by little, we're doing 2 people at a time with 2 to 3 weeks in between.
Okay.
So that's what we have. And the other thing, like, and the biggest reason, like the first person we're going to bring is someone that has been having issues with unemployment. So he hasn't been fully covered. And I think, to me, like if I'm able to pay someone, I'm going to get the person that hasn't been fully covered with employment. Mm-hmm. To me, it seems like the fair way to do it.
Right. Right.
So that's
okay. So Mary Ellen, how are you handling that? How are you figuring out how to call back employees and how to handle that?
It's, the big challenge, and we have to discuss PPP and unemployment.
Right.
Because we did keep our roastery team. We did furlough. We had 65 people here. It got down to 14 of us. So the roastery remained functional, but a much smaller team. Retail, obviously, even smaller. And then we had some senior management with us. So there's been a core team here. And I have to say, Allen and I are so appreciative of the people, because people were given the option whether they wanted to stay or flip into unemployment. And a core team have remained. And we couldn't have continued business without them here. Where it gets complicated now is, and we did really debate whether we should take PPP money or not. And I have to say, it is so complicated, and it was not clear. And our attorneys and accountants had to be brought in to discuss, should we take the money? Was it worth it? And we ultimately did decide to apply and were approved, but we're up against a time clock right now. We were awarded the money last week. We now have 7 weeks left, and we did bring 5 people back in this week. We brought in 2 retail managers and 3 roastery team. Our goal is to reopen another location curbside next week. But as an owner, you're put in a really tough position here, because you're weighing people's safety and well-being as far as their health, but then also their safety and well-being financially. And it's a terrible place to be in as an owner. And so we're doing everything to make sure people are as safe as they can be health-wise, but we need to make sure financially we're responsible too. We have been told we need to bring 48 people back to be forgiven for the PPP money. The hardest thing for us to realize now is there's no way we can responsibly do that, not only in bringing everybody back at once and make sure they're safe, but after the PPP money is gone, I will not have the business to support them after. And a percentage of them, a high percentage, will be laid off again. It's also very difficult to get someone to agree to get off unemployment right now, because it is extremely lucrative to be on unemployment. And so in choosing the people who are coming back, it's really difficult. I'm choosing people who, first of all, the people who've stayed in touch. I send a very detailed weekly email every week about, this is what's happening here, and we want you back, and pictures of all the things we're doing here and the local businesses we're buying lunch from. But it's the people who have stayed in touch. They're going to be the first ones we're going to bring back. Because to be honest with you, it's really day-to-day basis trying to rebuild a business and staying positive, and we're excited, and Alan and I are so committed that we know that we're going to reinvent ourselves and we'll be here. But to have someone else who comes in and questions you constantly is not going to help the team. And so we did bring people back who had been anxious to get back, had stayed in touch. And I am so moved that we've had people who that extra $600 a week in unemployment is a lot of money.
Right.
And I had one person in particular who asked a lot of questions, and I know she helped support her family. And she's just became a citizen 2 years ago. And she said, you know what, I had to look at the big picture. I want to be part of that big picture, Ilma, you talked about. She said, I want to be part of that team. And I am so appreciative that she saw the bigger picture. We can't build and try and bring everybody back if we don't have people here. It's also been a great opportunity for our younger staff who don't always get the shifts they want. The schooling is so eclectic right now. And we have a 15-year-old who's had her work permit since November. We didn't have an opening. We were a very lucky business. We had no openings. Alina started last week. And she is an amazing employee, and she gets to see her parents at work and get to see everything that we're going through, the highs and lows. And I have to say, when she comes home at night and shares what she's learned and what she never knew about our business, it's an amazing opportunity to share the business with her. And I feel like we are going to be a family-owned business, a real family-owned business now.
That's great. That's terrific. Mike, tell us about your employee plans.
Well, it was when this first started, and we first had to, we had, before this started, we had 45 employees. We had to lay off, I think, approximately 14. That point in time when we were up against it was probably one of the most hardest decisions we've ever, as a company, had to deal with, because we were dealing with, you know, what's the future of the business going to be? And are we going to survive versus are we going to get sick, and the safety of my employees? I think Mary Ellen mentioned it. It's, as a business owner, it's been the single most difficult thing to deal with as an owner, is staying in business to survive, for financial support of all our employees, and also their health safety. That's been the single biggest stress that I've personally have had to go through. We reached a point where we realized that the curbside was going to actually starting to do pretty well. And the employees that I kept, we realized we were pretty much busy right through the day, every day, 6 days, 7 days a week. So now we were facing the fact that we might need to bring people back right away. But because of the mechanics of the curbside, it's with the phones ringing and everybody running around putting up orders, it became so stressful that I didn't want to stay open 7 days. So we actually had to close 2 days a week and reduce our hours substantially from 9 to 4, just so that we could get through the day. Because every time we'd get through a day, you'd go home and feel like, okay, I got through today. That's all I can do. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and get through tomorrow. So we reached a point where we applied for the PPP, we got it, and we are using it. Our payroll is down some, it's down, but I think we're going to be okay with the satisfying all the requirements for to be forgiven. And if we didn't have that, it would have been a really tough 2-3 months coming up. I don't know. You know, we would have had to gone into some sort of capital reserves and bank loans and LOCs. And, you know, we're trying to save those funds for reinvesting in growing the business when this all finally turns around. And I have to say that my employees have been amazing. I mean, just amazing. They don't complain. They want to be here. We've done everything humanly possible to keep them safe. I've talked to them over and over again about, when you leave here, you know, do only the absolute essential things and keep yourself safe, because I can't control what you do outside of Harbor Fish. While you're here, I have a certain amount of control, and you know, that's just a lot of, it's a lot to, as an owner, it's a lot to carry around, that sense of responsibility for, you know, your staff possibly getting sick. So we're getting through it. And at the end of the day, we still have some sense of humor. You know, you have to have that sense of humor in this craziness. The other thing too is with the way that we're operating now, answering phone calls, we get 200-300 phone calls a day. And all of us, you know, me and the rest of we're all trying to answer phones, and other guys are trying to put up orders. And then our production crew is, you know, so it's full activity. But the positive part is we get to talk to a lot of customers that normally I wouldn't get to talk to. So it's actually been, aside from all the craziness, it's actually been somewhat enjoyable to be able to talk to them. So that's how we're getting through it with the employees, and it's definitely been a learning curve. If we can get through this, I feel like as a business owner, we can get through anything.
Oh, that's really terrific. So all three of you applied for PPP money and were approved. So that's, I think Ilma, you said you got it for Chaval, but not Piccolo?
We got an email this morning that we were approved for Piccolo.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
With the new funding that they got over the weekend.
Good, terrific. So we're about to turn it over into the questions from the audience. But before we do, I just wanted to give a shout out. In my pre-interviews with everyone, I was so impressed that not only are you managing to keep your businesses afloat during these remarkable times, but every one of you is investing in some kind of charitable operation. You know, for Mike to be sending food to Good Shepherd Food Bank, and Mary Allen is providing coffee to frontline workers and the health clinic that's just down the street. And Ilma, I love that it's just her, you know, the folks and Ilma and her husband are putting up food orders for Preble Street and for Mercy Hospital and soup for the elderly. I just think that's astonishing that you're all able to keep a commitment to the greater community while you're also operating your businesses through these extraordinary times. So kudos to all of you. And now I guess we will take a question. So Strawberry, you're handling the questions, yes?
Yes, if you'd like to ask your question live, you can use the raise your hand option and we'll be able to call on you and activate your microphone so you can ask your question live, or feel free to just submit your questions through the Q&A and we'll just read them aloud from there. And we do have one from Rory Strunk.
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was just, thank you guys for, as I was saying on my little thing, it's so great to hear and have a format with stories from the trenches, as we might say. So it's really important to have that, and we all learn. And thank to the Press Herald and the sponsors for making that happen. Obviously, you know, I'm sure there was some disappointment, you know, in various channels with the governor's tier plan. We don't all have the information that she might have, but it seems like the implications of 14-day quarantine. I know in the event business, I had just stabilized all of our events up to August 1st. And I think that what came out from the governor yesterday kind of blew that out of the water. And we'll likely see all the cancellations for our entire kind of wedding and event industry blown out of the water for August and September, and probably into October. So curious what people feel about the pros and cons of what the governor announced yesterday, and just opinions.
Go ahead, Ilma, you have your hand up.
No, it's and I don't mean to upset anyone, but I want to make sure that like I read it, and certain things I'm agree with, and certain things I'm not agreeing with, like everyone else. But the way I see it is like all these things that she has been doing so far, regardless if I agree or not, she's seeing in the bigger picture. She doesn't have to make a decision just based on me and my small business. She has to make a decision on everyone. And like I actually was talking to someone this morning, and it's like, do I agree Walmart or what's that one, Home Depot, and like those big stores are essential and they should be open right now? I don't agree. I personally don't shop in those places. I personally just buy local. However, I do understand that people don't have, I do understand that is a huge percentage of our population, our state, and in the country, for matter of fact, like that they don't think like, oh my God, I'm able to buy local. I'm able to go to the co-op. I'm able to go to Rossmann or whatever store that you decide to go. I'm pretty sure that a bunch of people are like, oh my God, I'm not able to afford coffee by design. But it's just because these people, they haven't been informed. They just don't know. They generally don't know. And they think of going to Walmart is way cheaper. They're able to get something there. So even though I don't buy in those things, even though I don't agree to that part, I do have to understand that these rules have been put in place for people like them and for people like me, regardless if I like it or not. So what I'm trying to say with this, it's like we have to be a little bit patient and we have to be a little bit understanding that even if the rule doesn't give us a benefit right there, we're thinking of on the greater good, on all of us. So like that's something that this morning, like just going through social media, and I think Rory probably saw it the same, like every single business owner out there is just so angry about it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But in the end, like, as I said before, like June 1st, I would love to open the doors in June 1st. But I guess selfishly, we're not going to be the first restaurant opening. Mm-hmm. Like I can't put, right now in the restaurant, as I told you, Carol, it's my daughter. So I bring Isabella to work because that's the only way that I can make it work. So I bring Isabella to work. Damien is there 5 to 6 days a week. I go there 3 to 4 days a week. And my parents go with Damien because my parents, both of them are PhD teachers. So they have nothing to do with cooking. They never cooked before. But they're the ones peeling potatoes, peeling carrots, like whatever Damien needs them to do, they do. They're the one washing dishes. They're doing whatever Damien asks them to. And bringing people in is a huge liability. Like just think about it, like whoever comes into the restaurant, even if they drop in food, like they can infect, they can touch something, and then if you don't wipe it right away, like, or if you just don't think about it, you don't know who you're putting at risk inside of your restaurant or outside of the restaurant. That's the biggest thing. And number two, just as a business purpose, like how does Mike knows that if I got coronavirus, if I go to inside of Harvard Fish Market, and why if I'm that awful person that I'm like, oh, Mike, I got sick here. That's a huge liability for a business. So I think we have to think forward and see like, okay, how does that look for us? Mm-hmm. Because like before, yeah, like if God forbid somebody got sick in our business, we have insurance, we have all these different things in place to cover those expenses. But now with our business doing 20% of our revenue that we used to do before, if someone comes with a huge medical bill, I don't think I'm able to pay that. Right. Like to being honest, like I don't think I'm able to afford that. And going to what Mary Ellen was saying is like with this PPP and all these different things that we have to be calling like our lawyers, our CPAs, our bookkeepers, like, so not just your don't have the revenue coming in, you're actually spending more money trying to understand all these rules. Right. So I don't know, like I feel I would love to open the restaurant right away. I'm just concerned about June 1st. It seems too far, but also too close based on the lack of information that we have there. And we have the lack of information because simply everything's going so fast and everything has been happening. Like all the decisions are going and put in place so soon. So we don't have enough research. We don't have enough information out there. We don't have enough data to base the decision. So that's my 2 cents. I don't agree with everything she said, but I also asking people to be kind.
Mary Ellen or Mike, do either of you want to weigh in on that?
Sure. Well, I think for me, you know, I don't see us opening the store for a while. And we're very fortunate in that I think we can sustain some level of, you know, prevent a lot of hemorrhaging going on by keeping curbside going. And we're also doing home delivery, which has been interesting. So I think we're going to be very careful. And I don't really have a timeline because I at least everything that I'm monitoring, there doesn't seem to be a lot of guidance from the CDC about how to do this. And that's what we've been dealing with right along. I mean, there was a time when the CDC was even indicating that you don't really need to wear a mask. And when the report came out that you could catch the virus, you know, within 1 to 2 feet, I was in a panic mode. I was like, oh my God. So that's when we got mad. And we've been wearing masks in the store ever since. And I go into the supermarket still. I was in the supermarket yesterday, and I'm always careful with everything I do. And I'm seeing employees with no mask on and customers walking in with no mask. So as I look around my community and I see these inconsistencies, it just, I don't know, I just feel a little concerned around the lack of information, and maybe it's because they just don't really know either. So we're going to be very conservative, I think, with our approach. And as far as, you know, for restaurants, I feel so bad that it's got to be so difficult. And, you know, it's a big part of our business, but up and beyond that, it's such a part of our community in the city. And I feel so hard. I feel so bad for the restaurants that it's going to be even more difficult trying to figure it out. So my sense is I think we're going to be relatively conservative moving forward until I feel 100% that my staff is going to be safe. And, you know, we're not going to have a situation where we have people getting sick coming into the shop. I just can't, you know, we'll have to avoid that at all costs.
Mary Allen, you're nodding in agreement.
Well, you know, it's interesting. First of all, I feel so fortunate to live in the state of Maine. I feel so lucky to be here. And I think we have incredible leadership. And again, we may not agree with everything, but at least we're being given information and direction and guidelines and timetables, which other places are not getting. I would have been concerned if the governor had said, we're going to open the state like Georgia. I think it's way too premature. And I know it is painful for us. And a large percentage of our wholesale business are restaurants. And I really feel for them. And it obviously impacts our business. But the most important thing is safety. And I don't think we have enough information yet. And the biggest mistake we can do is to open the doors sooner than we should. So I think that's incredibly important. I think also anyone who thinks that business is going to go back to normal, there is no normal anymore. We have to reinvent our businesses. And so as much as I would love to have everything open and fully functional right now, we have to rethink what our future is going to look like. And the new model of Coffee by Design or any of our businesses, we need to use that time now to come up with a new company, basically. And so it is going to take time, and we are initially going to have to be a smaller company. But I feel so committed. The other day yesterday I was coming in the store and a customer was shouting across the parking lot with her pound of coffee, "We will not let you fail." And I just thought, okay, now the pressure is even more. I can't fail. But it was so unbelievable. It made me very emotional coming to work, but it made me want to come to work. We will honor what you're doing to make us stay in business. But I think the safety, and to me, it's not even just looking at the immediate future, but we need to be prepared for the virus coming back.
Right.
So the time we spend now and coming up with guidelines and ways to run our businesses now is vitally important, because we will reopen and we will probably need to scale back again. So this is, I think, in some ways, the governor giving us this roadmap of slowly opening up. Let's use the time and use it well. And there are a number of us financially, yes, we're going to be hurt. But in the long run, we will have more sustainable businesses. We will have more people supporting local. And I think we will, as a community, we have forgotten, we got so busy and so wrapped up in the busyness of life. We now will value our community even more moving forward. I hope we don't lose that sense of community we have now.
Right.
Yep.
Thank
That's based on that, like we to touch the point, like Damien and I decided that, you know, like, and I think all of us do the same thing, like you run your business by 3 rules. The first one is family, your family, your team's family, and the rest of the community, like a community center. Then the second one, it's what it feels right, like ethically, what it feels right ethically. And the third one is financially. So I know that a lot of business will, and I had this conversation before, that it should do financially first. But to us, it's what you're saying, Mary Ellen. It's like what we put out there is going to come back. Maybe it's not going to come back to us right away, but it will come back to the community, and eventually by 2021, we're going to be better.
Good. Let's take another question from our audience.
Okay, Patrick Gilgallon, and I do apologize for butchering anyone's name. Patrick, can you hear me?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Mary Allen. Patrick Gilgallon. I run the bakery in Winter Harbor, and we proudly serve coffee by design.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
it's great. It's great hearing everybody's perspective on how you're running your business. Could you talk a little bit about your kind of refocusing on e-commerce and how you said you had a conversation with Square? I use Square as well. Mm-hmm. How much effort really has to go into developing an e-commerce site and an online store? And I'm sure I'm not the only listener on here that has that question. So thanks for sharing your insight on that.
We've become graphic designers also. We have a great marketing team and we have to use them very frugally, but and photos sell products, and we've learned we have to really limit how much we can put, although we're adding all the time. And it's every day we're having to tweak it. And we have the mail order and the curbside. And so Square was great in at least getting us initially set up and having it be cost effective. But we're adding to the menu constantly based on customer requests, and we're photographing everything in-house. We're learning where customers are not understanding how the system works, what seems clear to us. We're having to really listen to consumer feedback on what's working and what's not. We've been very interested in the new customers we're getting with curbside. And we can tell where they usually buy their coffee based on how they're wanting to order. So we've had to be thoughtful about what modifiers we add. And when staff are really busy, it gets very complicated in how someone wants their coffee to be made. And we want to make them happy, but half a scoop of that, this temperature, it gets very complicated. And we've always wanted to serve people properly, but our general manager used to be with a large national chain, and he's cracking up. He's like, I know exactly where they're coming from. And so we're learning how to sort of tailor it, but it's get the baseline set up, and believe me, customers will give you feedback about what you haven't included, but also if you want to serve them well, we can't do our whole menu. But it's been very amusing, the modifiers we've had to add.
Thank you. So again, thank you everyone for being with us today, and especially to our panelists for sharing their insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.